Okay, thank you, Professor Gedeon. I will share my presentation, and please let me know if everything is functioning well. So just to find it. Is it, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, then I will, but you see it on the whole screen, isn't it? Or not?
Yes, I think this is the whole screen now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my case, which I'm going to present here, is the Slovenia, and as usually, my presentation is divided into a few chapters. So I will start with another one. And in first chapter, I'm going to speak about the definition of ethnicity and territory. And in the second chapter is devoted to the first concept of Slovenia and the relation of Slovenia into the broader framework of the Habsburg monarchy. And in third part, I will present the political and economic integration of Slovenia in 19th century, and then we are going to proceed to the 20th century and with the existence of Yugoslavia, Yugoslav experience with the two forms of Yugoslav states, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia up to the Second World War and the communist Yugoslavia after the Second World War. And I'm going to conclude this presentation by the last chapter about the independent Slovenia in the 1990s and ideas about the integration and why to integrate Slovenia within the European Union. But before I proceed to that, I would like to give some I would like to give some introduction, some remarks, some general remarks in the introduction for better to understand the position of Slovenes and in the 19th and 20th century. And the first claim which should be emphasized is that the Slovenes concepts of integration were considered in the 19th and even in the 20th century as a Slovene national question. And we need to distinguish two ideas about integration. First is the integration within the, so to say, ethnic community, so we can call that internal integration, and the second one is within the existing state in which Slovenes were the part of that state, and of course, and in the third step, then thinking about the wider integrations in Europe or something like that. And one of the basic obstacles for all of these integrations theories were the geopolitical obstacles, geopolitical framework, which was very important. Because the Slovenes were living in the Habsburg monarchy were divided among 6 historical regions, and only one region was with the majority of Slovenes. In all other regions, Slovenes were minority, and that was a huge challenge for any kind of integration theories. And even worse, in the 20th century, with the collapse of Habsburg monarchy and establishment of Yugoslavia, Slovenes suddenly realized that they are citizens of the 4 states of Austria, Italy, Hungary, and the majority of Slovenes and Slovene territory in Yugoslavia. And instead of integrating that territory, the divergent process started. And that was also one of the crucial questions, how to enable the communication of Slovenes on the ethnic territory, regardless of border, And it took a very long time that the idea of the concept idea of the united cultural space was formed, which gained the importance, especially after the 1970s. And the basic idea was that Slovenia or Yugoslavia should be integrated and in very good relations with all neighboring countries in order to enable the smooth cooperation on the cultural level between the communities of Slovenes in all four neighboring countries. And there is also another question which strongly affected any idea about the integration or praxis about the integration of Slovenia within Slovenia or within Habsburg monarchy, within Yugoslavia, within European framework. And it is the low relative political weight of Slovenes. Slovenes were very small in numbers. From all cases which are presented here today, the Slovenes are the smallest ethnic community. And even from the very beginning of the national movement, at first attempts to integrate the country, there was also all the time awareness of the question of the low numbers, and that the low and the high numbers are very important in politics. And this was also one of the big challenge for any kind of formulating the ideas on a broader scale about integration. First, if I start with the first chapter, and at the beginning, of course, any idea of integration was the problem of definitions. What to integrate, who to integrate, and the idea about the Slovenes, that they are the distinct ethnic group, were not something new that was not brought with the modern period. At least it was known, and it was in a way formulated already at the period of Reformation. And you can find authors who consider Slovenes as a separate ethnic group, even in the earlier periods. But I am concentrating on the modern period, and here we can say that very important period, not only for Slovenes, but for other ethnic groups within Habsburg monarchy, was the period of Enlightenment, and especially the period of the Reform during the reign of Maria Theresia and Joseph II. At that time, with the reforms, with the aim that authorities would like to communicate with the population in their language, which they could understand, there emerged crucial question. As one of the leading Slovenian historians of that period wrote it was necessary to decide which language the compulsory schools, the new offices and the courts should use. And the national way, and that was one of the foundation where national movement later could start to develop, because within the Habsburg monarchy there was unifying linguistic practice for education, for announcement of laws, and of course the everyday communication in different administrative procedure with the population. Later, approximately at that time, there was also one important starting point. In the 1768, the first Slovene grammar was published. It was written by Marko Pohlin, and that was also very important because it standardized Slovene language. And the next important step was the German-Slovene dictionary, approximately 25 years later, written by Ožbal Gutzman, which also established Slovene as a language with the full capacity for expressions, everyday life, or highly artistic attempts in the comparison with Germans. When you make a definition, of language, then you, of course, need to find some common ground of that community which is using that language. And that task was done by the Anton Tomáš Linhart in 1791, who published officially the first history of the territory where Slovenes lives. He did not speak about the Slovenes, but he was deeply convinced that in the region between the river Drava on the north and the Adriatic Sea at the southwest, there is only one ethnic group, and that ethnic group later became Slovenes in a sense of the modern ethnic community. And Linhart was already one of the first to express this dilemma that ethnic community could be, or modern nation could be formed without state, and that was something which was for that time very unusual, since we all know about the distinction between the historical and unhistorical nations. And he strongly emphasized that the history of people whose language, culture, and history unite them into distinct whole, different from others' peoples. All of these works were the foundations for the future national movement. And with the grammar, with the dictionary, and with the common history, Slovene ethnic territory gradually became unified culturally through linguistic regulation and through the press, who was spreading the idea of the common origin, of the common language, and of the common history. And from the beginning of the 19th century, the term Slovene language was increasingly used in public, not only among the press in Slovene language, but Slovene language gradually became also recognized by press in other languages, for instance, in German or in Italian, and as a distinct language. And already from this idea, Linhart's idea, became widely accepted, that the Slovenes are the community that expressed itself in common language and has a common cultural essence. And that claim was one very important pattern for the later national movement, or in the period of when the population was nationalized. When you create language, when you create history, then you need to create also, or to imagine also, the country. Every population, every ethnic group need to have a country, and that was the last step in that. That was the last process when the term Slovenia was invented. For most period up to the creation of Yugoslavia, Slovenia was more culturally and political concept, and in a way imagined country, than any kind of reality. The first time that Slovenia was named as an administrative unit was for a short period of time after the creation of Yugoslavia, but was quickly abandoned. And due to other political reasons within Yugoslavia, not in Slovenia, and it was officially used only after the Second World War, with the creation of Socialist Republic of Yugoslavia or Slovenia within the communist Yugoslavia. The map of the name Slovenia as an imagined country was first mentioned in press in 1844, and soon after that, after the 1848 year, with the national uprising and which is described as a spring of nation. Also, the map of Slovenia emerged, and it was done by Peter Kozler, geographer, and it was published in 1851. And later, this was some kind of, it was a map of Slovenian land. It was, in fact, it was not map of Slovenia, but it was the map of the regions, historical lands where Slovenians lived at that time. And today, this territory is divided among the four countries, as we already know. 1848 was very important year, because this was the year when first official integration concept was done, and it was called United Slovenia, and it was in its essence, it was very, very simple. Slovenians should be united within the one administrative unit, which called Slovenia, and the concept was called United Slovenia. And within that unit, Slovene language should be official language, and all of the state administration should, school system and church organization should use Slovenian language as only official language. And that was part which considered Slovenia itself. And in the second step, there was also the idea that Habsburg monarchy, which what we already heard on the Czech case, or in the case of Croats, in the case of Slovaks, that Habsburg monarchy should be reorganized into federation of nations, and strongly reorganized on the basis of ethnic principle. As I said in my introduction, in general remarks, this concept was in strong opposition and in strong contradictions with the prevailing model of political life within the Habsburg monarchy, and it was in a way call for so radical reorganization of Habsburg monarchy that it was not possible even to dream about that, because Habsburg monarchy was based on the historical regions. And for the Slovenians, there was also, for Slovenian national movement, there was also one big problem, because territory where Slovenes live was ethnically mixed, mostly with Germans, Hungarians on the east side, and of course the Italians on the west side. And there was always a question how to bring together these two different aspirations. There's, for instance, the aspirations of German to live within the German units, and aspiration of Slovenes to live within Slovene administrative units, and that was the cause of the conflict during the 19th century. United Slovenia was a never realized concept, and it was politically actual up to the end of the First World War, up to the end of the Habsburg monarchy. When we, from the conceptual level, came down to the everyday practice, then we can see that the 19th century was the century of the political and economic integration of the Slovenian territory. The driving force for that integration was the nationalism. On one, we have, and here we have to distinguish two ways, or two faces of nationalism. On one side, we have the ethnic nationalism, which was pushing for nationalization of population, which that's why it was created in the first stage, the one national movement, and later with ideological divisions, this this one national movement simply reorganized itself into the political parties in accordance to the ideological point of view. On the other side, very strong emphasis was done on the economy, as the economic nationalism was aimed to support the political goals of the national movement, and it was mostly based on the cooperativism, which should offer the population not only the political or cultural services, but the economic services as well. And there was always some ideas that it is not possible to have full political emancipation of the nation without economic background. At the end, already during the conception of the concept of United Slovenia, there was expressed the idea that Slovenes should somehow found connections with the Croatians because of the similarities, and this was the first attempt how to increase the relative political weight of Slovenes. Later, this idea of connections with Croatia was expanded on the Serbs within Habsburg monarchy, and the final idea was that the Habsburg monarchy should be reorganized into three units. On one side, Austria; on the other side, Yugoslavia, which would include all the regions of the South Slav population within Habsburg monarchy, and the third unit should be Hungary. There were also some voices about the Pan-Slavism, about the idea about trying to get support from Russia, but that was not widespread. If I'm going now to the Yugoslav experience, and from the very beginning, the consideration of Yugoslavia was very similar to that one of the Habsburg monarchy. Yugoslavia should be a state which will enable and protect the economic, social, political, and cultural development of Slovenia, and Slovenia should be within Yugoslavia a separate unit with a wide range of autonomy. And if you are entering one country with such program, then of course there was all the time, from the very beginning, strong opposition to any kind of culture or ethnical unification in the country, the strong opposition towards the centralism, and the whole interwar period, there were demands for regional autonomy. That was not something which was materialized up to the Second World War, but the ideas were very clear, and these ideas became possible in the period after the 1945, when, as I already mentioned, there was formation of the Socialist Republic of Slovenia, and that was some kind of that Slovenia gained some kind of semi-statehood, but not only the Slovenia, because the whole Yugoslavia was reorganized, whole communist Yugoslavia was reorganized along the ethnic lines, and there were creation of the 6 republics with the same status as Slovenia. And that was considered among the politicians and among the people who were writing or thinking about the Slovenian position within Yugoslavia as a huge advancement, and Yugoslavia was considered to be legitimate framework of Slovenian living until it provided all the expectations. And the positions of the individual republics in Yugoslavia became even more important since the state started with the huge decentralization in the 1970s, where more or less all of the state authorities were transferred to the individual republics, except defense, monetary policy, foreign policy, and international and foreign trade. But the crucial moment, and which arise new questions in the Yugoslavia, and of course that within the broader European context, was the deep economic crisis in the 1980s in Yugoslavia, which destroyed all the how I don't find the right word now, but the crisis in the 1980s caused a deep political crisis where every republic was questioning itself, what is the future? And there is not only the question of Yugoslavia, but that was also connected with the question of communist political and economic establishment, how to overcome the crisis. At the end, there was a strong feeling, not only in Slovenia, but also in other parts of Yugoslavia, that due to absence of any kind of cohesion and solidarity within the country, that Yugoslavia and Yugoslav idea became space which does not enable anymore any predictable future. So there is need to be any new idea. And this new idea was formulated in the form of independent Slovenian state. And at the end, it was way out of Yugoslavia, also way out of socialism. So we are talking about the two processes which were merged in one process. On one side, we have the establishment of the independent Slovenia, and on the other side, the transformation from the socialist, from the communist political and economic order into the parliamentary democracy and market economy, as it was said. And from the very beginning of the Slovenian, or even before the full Slovenian independence, there was idea that first Yugoslavia should be integrated within the European Union, and there were, because of the huge cooperation which was formulated and formalized with the different agreements with the European Union and Yugoslavia from the 70s onward, and that this trend should be finished by the incorporation of Slovenia within the European Union, and as in other post-socialist countries in Slovenia, this process was also called back to Europe or Europeization, different of the individual thinkers. The idea of European Union was very similar to the idea of the Yugoslavia in the 1918. Slovenes want to enter the European Union, which should be a community of equal nations and as a safeguard in a globalized world. And European Union should protect and promote the national development of each member. Otherwise, there is no sense for any kind of existence for European Union. And if we see that this is exactly the same idea which was first formulated in the 1848 with the idea of United Slovenia, it was reaffirmed in the period of creation of Yugoslavia, and the third time in 100 and a half, it was again actual with the Slovenian entering the European Union. And my last slide is just a conclusion. Then most of the one very important concept which prevailed in Slovenian territory was the concept of United Slovenia, although this concept transformed from the idea of one territorial unit into the united cultural space during the 20th century, where the basic claim was integration of the Slovenia or Yugoslavia within the Central European framework to enable the smooth cooperation, social and cultural, political cooperation within whole Slovene territory in all 4 different countries. And when there was a feeling that, or the idea that the existing country like Habsburg monarchy or Yugoslavia does not enable Slovene nations the economic, cultural, and political development on equal basis as other nations, then the new idea of new integration, of new way was formed. Thank you for your attention, and I finished my presentation.